Am I here? What? Oh, okay. Hello. Hello, hello. Can everyone see and hear me? Welcome to another stream. It's kind of a later time than I would normally stream, but figured I'd mix it up. Maybe we'll allow some different people to catch the stream than normal. Also, it's been a minute since I last streamed. I think it's been like 2 months or so. So it's been a little bit of a minute. Been busy. How am I doing? I'm doing well. I just got done taking a walk. And then I ate some food. Now I'm streaming. Don't really have anything in particular planned for the stream. Just figured we could chat, hang out. And if anyone has a topic they want to talk about or has a question they want to ask, that'd be cool. Any hints on my next topic? Well, let's see. I don't normally like to spoil it, but I'm kind of getting back into, like, I basically had like a year, or I was doing a lot of videos about just like TV, basically TV and movies. So it's in that vein, which is kind of what I've been interested in making videos about lately. I did some videos about other things where I was like trying out different hobbies and stuff, but I'm kind of like getting back into like the media pop culture type of videos. The tip link is giving 404 not found. Honestly, I need to remove the tip link. I feel like nobody really uses it. People seem to like to super chat more, so I probably should just get rid of it. And it's kind of the same thing as super chat anyway, so I just figure like having more options is better, but honestly, more options is usually not better. It's kind of like there's like a name for that where you give people too many options, they choose none. But yeah, I don't, for those that have been watching previous streams or even just keeping up with the channel's kind of been in like a transition experimental period, but I think I'm finally kind of settling down on what this channel is actually going to be about, because obviously this was a political channel for a long time and I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. So then I had to figure out what I was going to do. and you'll see as time goes time goes on, like what that's gonna look like. Who are my favorite YouTube essayists? Oh, there's a lot. Definitely H Bomber guy. I kind of hesitate because essayists, like there are some videos that are obviously video essays, but then there are some videos that are kind of in the vein of video essays, but maybe not. Like I really like the Dead Meat channel, which is a channel about horror movies. And it's like those are arguably video essays, but really they're just kind of entertainment movie reviews. H Bomber guy's up there though. He's like one of my all-time favorite. FT Signifier puts out good stuff. ContraPoints, obviously. Lindsay Ellis, kind of like the people you would expect, I guess. Big Joel. I don't watch a lot of politics videos these days, so if you mean political video essayists, I don't know who's doing that really. It's just like not my jam at the moment. But just in general, like video essays about like media and pop culture and stuff like that, those are kind of the ones that I would think about. Those are the first ones that come to mind. I used to watch a lot of Khadija Mbo's videos, but like I said, I don't really watch a lot of like social political stuff these days. Assuming that they still do that. Do I pray? No, not at all. Surprised by that change. Why the shift from political content? Well, I made a whole, well, I think I unlisted the video actually. But I did make a video about it. It's just annoying. Politics makes me sad. And I understand that it's important, but I really have come to the conclusion that talking about politics on the internet and social media and YouTube is just, it's more negative than it's positive, and I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And I kind of have become sort of disillusioned with this whole idea of just a bunch of sort of random people with no expertise and often very little life experience trying to tell other people what they should believe about the world. Just it got really cringe about me, very cringe to me, and I felt very like self-conscious about it and being involved in it, and it just doesn't seem like a thing that should exist. And the more that I like started to look at it, the more like disillusioned I got with the whole process. And there's a lot more to it, like hold on a sec. But yeah, being sort of in like this political rabbit hole in the political community, it kind of like messes with your mind, and you get, especially when you're like a public figure, but not even just when you're a public figure or a content creator, when you're involved in a political community, there's just like endless purity tests, and people like putting pressure on you to have like the right opinion, and if you have the wrong opinion, you could easily just get completely ostracized from the community. And it's the whole thing's just really dumb to me, and cringe and sad and frustrating, and so I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And so far it's been a great decision. Much happier, much less stressed. Been following you so many years and never caught a stream before. Awesome. Yeah, I wonder if streaming at a later time has allowed different people to catch the stream than normal. That's only problem with having like a very consistent stream schedule is like you only get the people that are available at that time. But having an inconsistent stream schedule means that people never know when you're going to go live and they never know when to expect it, which can also be bad. So, you know, what are you going to do? In politics, you can get hammered hard and for years if you mess up. True. I mean, yeah, there's that. There's like, if you do mess up, quote unquote, or make a mistake, there's like no grace. There's like no forgiveness. Or if someone has found out that you messed up in the past, there's a good chance that there's no grace, no forgiveness. But also, you don't even have to mess up. You just have to do something that people perceive as messing up, even if you don't think you messed up. Like I went through several different shifts in my audience because a long time ago, I used to be a lot more, I don't even know how to describe it, but I criticized the social justice movement a lot, even though I consider myself to be a part of it. But because I criticized it a lot, I got a lot of those sort of reactionary people in my audience. But then once I sort of clarified, it's like, yo, I consider myself a progressive person and a supporter of things like feminism and social justice and trans people and LGBTQ. That then I lost a lot of those people that were like, oh, I thought you were cool, but you're like you're SJW. And then after that, I lost a lot of the left people because they thought that I wasn't left enough. So it just like, you don't even have to really mess up. You just, people just decide that you don't pass their test. If you aren't a socialist, I will unsubscribe. Well, I'm not a socialist, so you might have to unsubscribe. That's exactly an example. I don't know if that was a joke. That might be a joke, but that's literally the opinion of a lot of people. And I did lose a lot of fans, supporters, whatever, when they found out that I wasn't as left as they thought I was. And that's why politics is annoying, just because of all the purity tests, all the toxicity, all the negativity, and yeah, I just didn't want to really be a part of that. It's pretty whack. Cool. What's up, Cooking with Silence? Are you an SJW? I don't know that I've ever heard the term SJW used in a neutral, like a non-negative way. So I don't know exactly what that means. So you'd have to define what an SJW is. It seems like just kind of a derogatory word most of the time. So it's like asking someone, are you an idiot? It's like, well, I don't identify as an idiot, but maybe your definition of an idiot fits me. A lot of people did think I was an SJW, but a lot of people who were more on the social justice side thought that I wasn't social justice enough. So If you aren't God, I'll unsubscribe. But yeah, no, it's fine. You don't have to apologize. I was just kind of using that to make my point. When I discovered your channel, I was an anarchist. Or does that imply that you are no longer an anarchist? Is anarchism out of style now? Because I feel like a lot of people were anarchists when I was really deep in the thick of politics. I'm a socialist, but still love your content. Well, the good thing about it is I don't do political content anymore, so your politics should have no bearing on whether you like my videos. Actually, I mean, you know, I'm still me. I still have my views. I still have my ideas. I still consider myself a, you know, progressive, liberal, left-wing, social justice person. So that's going to come through in my videos no matter what. It's just that the videos are not going to be about that. But, you know, I don't think politics should really affect whether you like the videos because they're not about politics. But, you know, there are people out there who need everyone they support to have the same politics as them, which I think is cringe. But, you know, if that's you, that's cool. You know, do your thing, live your life in the best way that you think you should. Your video on Sam Harris is still one of the best takedowns of the modern intellectual movement. I suppose so. It wasn't really intended to be a takedown. Well, I mean, I guess it was kind of a takedown. I should be honest about it, but I appreciate that. I mean, I think that video, that was one of my first like really big videos. Because I think it might have been something that a lot of people were feeling at the time, but no one had really put it into words, as far as I knew. I can easily live with any socialist or other economic political beliefs as long as you never voted Republican at any point. Well, guess what? When I was 18, I think, whatever was the first George Bush election, I voted for George W. Bush. People change. That's the whole thing. That's the point. That's like the point that I'm making. So people have this sort of like fixation on moral purity, but we're all just complex and we're all trying to figure it out. No, I'm very strongly anti-Republican now, very strongly anti-conservative. I think that whole thing's a mess, but I have a lot more patience for conservatives. And I'm much more interested in figuring out why people believe the way that they are, or why people believe what they believe. Because people are complex. And I think that most people aren't lunatics. And I think most people are trying to just figure things out. And people come to different conclusions sometimes. Love the Scrabble video. Sent me down a 2-month-long Scrabble hyperfixation. Yeah, I think the Scrabble video came out well. I think it's one of the best videos I've made. Kind of a niche topic, but yeah, Scrabble. I think Scrabble's a cool game. It's much cooler than I would have thought that it is, especially once you get into like the competitive aspect of it. And I still follow like a lot of the Scrabble content creators. It's really interesting. Do I play Overwatch? Ran into someone named T1J. I do play Overwatch, so there's a very good chance that was me. Sorry if I was feeding. I probably was. And sorry if I wasn't in chat because I turn off all of the voice and text chat because similar to the reasons that I don't involve myself in politics anymore. It's just very toxic usually. Do I support repealing the law of gravity? I'm a big fan of gravity, I think. Keeps me grounded. I'm still obsessed with Scrabble. I still play Scrabble Go on my phone here and there. And I play, every now and then I play online. The only problem with Scrabble is if you actually want to get good at it, it requires some pretty intense dedication, which I don't know if I am that obsessed with it to put that much dedication, because it's just kind of memorizing a bunch of words. That's mostly what it is. Well, that's not mostly what it is, but that's a big part of it. Like, you can't be good at Scrabble if you don't know a bunch of like obscure words, and memorizing stuff requires dedication. I mean, I guess some people might be very good at it, but I'm not that good at it. Speaking of that, I also made a video about how to memorize stuff, which is part of the reason that I did that, because I wanted to be better at it. I miss the days when the Republicans were more conservative rather than the current Trump worship death cult zeitgeist nowadays. I agree that the Trump cult is very disturbing. There was just a clip recently about how there were, I mean, and you know, when they go and like interview Trump supporters, it's a little bit, you know, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because they're going to include the most extreme opinions and kind of exclude the ones that are less entertaining. But I think it was on maybe the Daily Show or something like that, where they were interviewing Trump supporters who were like saying stuff like, we need Trump to be our dictator, and we think it's cool if Trump wants to be a dictator because we like Trump that much that we'll let him be the dictator. And it's like, well, that's disturbing. It's not even like hyperbole to call it a cult anymore. And that's one thing that the socialists and me can agree on, is that we're both pretty strongly anti-Trump and the Republican Party. If I remember, you were on Tank and we won. So it must have been more recently, because I was on like a massive lose streak a couple weeks ago, but I kind of broke it because I was starting to like, the Overwatch is a game I'm actually trying to learn how to be good at, and so I watch a lot of educational content and stuff, and so I've been like practicing and trying to apply some of the things I've learned. So you may have been playing with us, because I was duoing with my brother. We like play together all the time, and we kind of had a pretty nice run where we won maybe like 7 out of 9 games or something. I was probably playing Reinhardt because that's my favorite character. Two-month Scrabble hyperfixation. I can only beat medium. Yeah, you gotta. I think the only reason that I was able to get good so fast is because I was doing it for content. So it was like very important to me that I learned how to beat the Grandmaster bot. Voice chat in games is so pointless to me unless it's talking with friends. It's all negative, no positive. I agree. Not only just voice chat, I think text chat in general is usually pointless. Now, I understand if you, sometimes it's like, I remember like playing League of Legends back in the day, and sometimes you'll have like a really fun group and they'll be just typing memes and jokes in chat, and you know, even sometimes with chatting with the other team and just being, you know, having fun. Like, that's the ideal, but that's kind of rare. But yeah, usually it's not pointless. I mean, usually it is pointless. They act like there wasn't a reign of Rush Limbaugh for 40 years before that, telling them smoking doesn't hurt you, telling them that communists and homosexuals are taking over. The same thing was going on when I was a little boy. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, same boss or new boss, same as the old boss. Have I tried Helldivers 2? I have not. I don't think I know what that is. Is that another shooter game? Yeah, third-person squad-based shooter. Interesting. I should try some other games. I really love Overwatch a lot. And I've tried some of the other like really popular, like I've tried Apex, I've tried Valorant, I've tried Fortnite, but I don't really like them as much as Overwatch. It's basically Starship Troopers the game. Well, that sounds cool. That's a great way to sell it, because I do love Starship Troopers. Do I mostly play shooters? No, not at all, actually. Overwatch is the only one that I really got into. Well, that's not fair. That's not true, actually. I was super into Team Fortress 2, which is probably why I'm so into Overwatch, because it's basically like the spiritual sequel to Team Fortress 2. But I got really into Team Fortress 2. Outside of that, I played like a little bit of like Call of Duty Black Ops 1, like the old one. Outside of that, I've never really been that big into shooters. The thing with me is I just like competitive games, so I will try any competitive game once. And for some reason certain ones stick. Like for example, I played a ton of League of Legends, but I wouldn't really call myself a MOBA fan because that's the only one that I played. If I had to like say what genre I like the most, it's definitely fighting games. I will try any fighting game and probably get into it. But again, it's just like the competitive person in me. I really like competitive games. I feel like every time I've seen you stream, it's been RPGs. Well, I played a lot of WoW, if that's what you're talking about. I don't feel like I've never streamed like a traditional RPG. Any take on the uncommitted movement? So this is like, that's like the people who are like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna vote for Joe Biden or whatever. I don't know. I kind of have a hot take about the presidential election. I don't really, it's not that I don't care who the president is, but I kind of think that the presidential election is just kind of a big sham. Like it doesn't matter who you plan to vote for. I mean, it does, but because we have the electoral college and because it's always two disappointing people, like it doesn't matter that much to me if you're uncommitted or not. Like it's like, yeah, it would be bad if Trump becomes the president again, but it's like he already got to be the president. Like we're already in this, you know, we're already like, he might as well be the president. I think people should care much more about their local elections and their voting for their Congress people. I think people should care a lot more about that. So I think people should be more committed about that. If you are like, if you're uncommitted about your senators and Congress people, that might be an issue. But I mean, you know, people like, I mean, you can maybe explain it to me. Are people saying like Joe Biden, if you don't get your shit together, we're gonna vote for Trump. Like, is that what the uncommitted movement is? Because to me, that seems silly. Yeah, well, it's mostly because of the Gaza situation, which is a whole can of worms on its own. Generally, I would say the American response to that is always been bad, but is the idea like we're gonna vote for Trump if you don't change your stance on Gaza? If so, like, if not, then what is the whole uncommitted? Like, why is it called uncommitted? Forgive me. I'm, like I said, I'm a little bit tapped out from politics, so I don't know all of the details and facts about everything. Anyway, those old TF2 character videos are still classic. Yeah, TF2 still is a great game, and always it's just, I don't know, it's like one of the greatest games of all time. Black Ops 1 was the first and last COD that tried to be clever in its campaign. Yeah, the single player campaign was really good in that game. And I had fun with the multiplayer. I think most people really loved the original Modern Warfare games, Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, like the original ones. Like they like re-released those games, or did they make new games and just give them the same name as the old ones? It's very confusing, but I'm talking about the originals. People loved Modern Warfare 2. That game was so popular back in the day. I'm a little behind on the comments, so forgive me. Remember asking you about Buddhism before. What do you think about the idea of non-self, that there's no permanent phenomenon in people, whether it be physical or mental, so a sense of self is wrong? There's no permanent phenomenon. I probably would need that to be explained further, but my initial thought is that I disagree. I think that probably the self is the most permanent thing there is. Like, that's all that an individual has, I think, is their self and the aspects of their self. But I may just not understand what is being said. I think we're opposite gamers. Hate competitive, love building little towns or sims. I actually like sim games a lot too, but I definitely don't play them as much as competitive games. Actually, I just recently bought City Skylines and I haven't played it yet. Get involved at a local level. I know a lot of people feel like their voice isn't heard, but even a small group of people can make huge changes locally. Absolutely. I think we have one of the biggest examples of that. I live in Alabama, for those that don't know. And one of the biggest examples of people getting together and getting something done is when we got Doug Jones elected in Alabama. Granted, that was very short-lived, and it took a lot of factors. Like, it took the opposing Republican to be like a accused sex offender for it to happen, but we got a Democrat elected to the Senate in Alabama, which is crazy. So people can definitely make stuff happen if they care enough to get involved. I think it's just that they won't vote, or maybe third party. Well, again, it's whatever, you know. As long as they still vote for the local stuff, then I'm fine with that, to be honest. I've voted third party before and I don't regret it. It's kind of whatever to me. And this might be a very controversial opinion. I know a lot of people are very serious about getting people to vote or whatever. But vote for your congresspeople, vote for your senators, vote for your local initiatives, you know, canvass for your local, you know, vote for your governors, vote for your mayors. That's very important. For the president, it's just whatever. Vote whoever you think is the best, whether it's third party or whatever. I mean, you might as well vote for somebody because you're going to be there, because you're going to vote for all the other stuff, hopefully. So you might as well vote for somebody. But, you know, I don't know. So we'll see. I'm a little bit hesitant to really comment super hard since it seems to revolve mostly around Gaza, and I think the vast majority of people are not informed enough about the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to even have a strong opinion about it. So I don't even like to touch that issue because everyone has such a strong opinion about it, and nobody, I guarantee you, like 90% of people don't know the history of that conflict to any like real degree. And I'm not saying that I do, but even if I go to start to read the history, I immediately realize, oh, this is way too complicated for me to have a strong opinion about it. So I'm immediately skeptical of anyone who has a strong opinion about it. Unless someone is like an actual like historian or actually writes about this for a living or something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not going to answer any questions about that conflict because I don't consider myself smart enough or learned enough to comment on it. And I think you all should be skeptical of anyone who says that they are, who thinks that they are. To me, I just want to see environmental policies implemented, equality for all minorities, healthcare choices for women, just to name a few, which is why I'm settling for Biden. Yeah, like I said, you might as well vote for somebody if you're going to go vote. And to me, if we're doing Biden versus Trump, which just seems like it's what's going to happen, to me, that's an easy choice. I think Trump is the worst. And I don't think Biden's the worst. We could do better, but we could do a lot worse than Biden, I think. And then, you know, there's all the issues of them being old or whatever, which is also kind of unfortunate, but you know, what are you going to do? I've been trying to get myself to play City Skylines for years. It's been sitting in my Steam library of shame. Yeah, I'm not quite years, but it's been a few months for me. I kind of impulsively downloaded it because I was like, man, I really want to play like I just want to get lost in like a sim game. And I was like, oh yeah, I've seen this City Skylines game. At first I was gonna get Sim City, but I don't know. Apparently a lot of people didn't like the most recent Sim City. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll give City Skylines a chance. But I haven't even played it yet. Why do I think pet rocks were popular back in the 70s? I don't know. Good marketing. I mean, I think I don't know. It's not that shocking to me, really. Like, there are a lot of like weird things that get popular through marketing and hype and things like that. But who knows? I wasn't around back then, so I'm sure someone that was around right back then would have a better answer. Do you know about any grassroots political movement from your area that you like to shout out? I mean, like not recently, not in particular, because as I said, I've been a little bit checked out from politics and things like that. I'm sort of like gradually making my way back into being informed about what's going on. I went like a full like year completely checked out from politics. I had no idea what was going on in the world. And then I kind of realized it's probably bad to have no idea what's going on. You should have some idea what's going on. So I'm just only recently starting to get back into it, but I'm still limiting my exposure to politics. I've sort of just completely changed my thoughts about politics. Like, you know, there's this idea that sort of became popular over the last decade or so, is that everything is politics and everything should be viewed through the lens of politics. And I sort of fell into that. So it's like, you know, I can't watch shows or listen to music if it disagrees with my politics. I can't support people that don't agree with my politics. I can't shop at stores if the people who own it don't agree with my politics. I can't, and I just don't agree with that anymore. I just don't think that politics, like, you can't be friends with people if they don't agree with your politics. I completely don't agree with that anymore. I did fall into that for a little bit, and I think a lot of people still feel that way, but I just feel like that's just no way to live. And I think it's just kind of, it's very cringe to me now. And so I stepped away from politics entirely for a while, and I think it really helped me to really see the world more objectively, rather than filtering everything through my political beliefs. But like I said, I do think it's important to have some idea of what's going on in the world, to be just an informed citizen. So I'm getting better at it. I've never played Midnight Suns either. I might check it out though. I do like Marvel. The dialogue is a mix of charming and cringe. Well, that sounds like Marvel, but the combat is really addictive. Cool. I want to give a shout out to Vermin Supreme. What's Vermin Supreme up to? Are they still like running for office and stuff? I have mostly the same political beliefs I had eight years ago. Why spend so much time, especially when it often puts me in a negative headspace if it doesn't change how I end up voting? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like prescribe my thoughts to other people. Like, if you feel that is important to spend a significant portion of your life discussing politics, then go for it. I figure somebody's got to do it, but it's just not gonna be me. Other people might have a better disposition for that sort of thing, but I just don't have it. It makes me sad, and I don't like being sad. So and that's one thing that I've learned about life, is that it's much easier to change your environment than to change yourself. And sometimes changing your environment will eventually lead to a change in yourself. So usually if there's something wrong, like if I feel sad or upset or angry and I don't want to feel that way anymore, I immediately look to see, can I change my environment? Is my environment a factor in this? And that's kind of how I felt about being involved in the political community. That's why I don't post on Twitter anymore too. Or one of the reasons why. I mean, part of it is just because Elon is weird, but part of it is because Twitter is a very frustrating and angry place, and I didn't want to be in that environment. Even now, every now and then I will like go check Twitter, and it just like always makes me mad. Like every time I go on Twitter. I've been on Threads lately. I like Threads a lot because it's just super quiet and boring over there. Although I feel like people are trying to turn Threads into the new Twitter. People are like trying to get their hot takes out there. But overall, Threads is a lot more chill. And I kind of like that about it. I think it should be. Oh, is that a reference to the game? I haven't played the game. Elon trashed Twitter. Literally all negative stuff and bots. So many bots everywhere in Twitter. Yeah, I don't know. I had to get out of there. The thing that set me off is when the thing about Elon is he seems to be making decisions like on a whim, and sometimes he'll make a decision, it's very unpopular, and then he'll immediately reverse the decision. Or sometimes he'll make a decision that's really unpopular, and then he'll just like double down on it just to be a troll. And it's like, I can't deal with this. But the thing that really set me off is when he started, I don't think he does it anymore, but he started marking all national or public news organizations as government controlled media, as if this was like as if this was sort of like a warning. And it basically kind of implied that things like PBS and NPR were on the same level as like Russian government media or like North Korean government controlled media, which to me was very cringe and very like, I don't know, it's very like reactionary shit lore thing to do. And I was like, let me get out of here before this turns into fucking Parler or something. I suppose, simply put, what makes you T1J? Is it a permanent physical aspect of yourself, or is the mental aspect such as your thoughts, emotions, etc. what makes you T1J? If the atoms you're made of are constantly in flux, as well as what you think and feel, do you actually have a permanent sense of self? I guess in Buddhism you could change it every moment. Well, I mean, we do change. I think that's scientifically true. Like our cells continue to change and grow. Like the cells that you have 20 years from now are a completely different set of cells than you had before. So the change part is accurate, but I think that's just those are all just characteristics of being a person, that's part of being the self. Your mind is part of yourself. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I think it's we have a pretty good idea of the fact that our thoughts and emotions are controlled by our brain and you know, chemical reactions in our brain and stuff. And I think those are just all characteristics of the self. And as far as we know, when one dies, all those things stop. not by life events. I don't know. I think some people find it annoying when you try to relate everything into sort of a physical, scientific aspect, but I try to be very evidence-based about the things that I believe, and I don't, you know, even though we do change, and even though we are influenced by outside events, it's still, you know, it's still us at the end that are affected. And, you know, when you die, you can no longer be affected by life events. You know, you stop changing outside of, you know, like decomposition and things. But it does seem to be a, you know, static physical thing. Not static, but, you know. I did see the new D&D Lego set. I saw like a picture of it. I didn't really look into it. Did I play Baldur's Gate 3? I played a decent amount of Baldur's Gate 3. I haven't played it in a few weeks though. I'll probably get back on it, but there's so much stuff in that game. I feel like I'm probably never gonna beat it. But yeah, I played a decent amount. I'm like near the end of Act 1, basically. Do I like walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells? Was that supposed to be shells? Or grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells? Or is this like some kind of rhyme? I don't understand. Feels like hearing the ship of Theseus thought experiment and saying ships don't really exist. It sounds like that. Again, I probably just don't understand it, but sometimes it's like, if I don't understand it, is it because it's not that robust an argument? I don't know. Why is your comment censored? Possibly because it on YouTube you can filter through top chat or live chat. If you go to live chat, it might appear. For some reason, Top Chat filters out things that it thinks might be spam or inappropriate, but sometimes it has a false positive. Is it this comment? Propaganda in the West is more thorough than more through the corporate media, which has a back door that government agencies use all the time. Yeah, I don't think anyone has I don't think any like serious person would deny that propaganda exists in the West. But if you're trying to say that people should be as worried about propaganda from PBS as they are from, you know, Putin's government-controlled Russian media, then I think you're being a little bit disingenuous. But I could be wrong. I'd love to see the examples of PBS and NPR, you know, spreading misinformation or harmful information, harmful propaganda that favors the United States, you know. Was Margot Robbie snubbed at the Oscars? I don't know. I didn't see Barbie. The Oscars is weird. I don't really understand why anyone cares about the Oscars. Don't we all agree that the Oscars is like super biased and super like problematic. Like they rarely give them to black people. They rarely give them to women. They ignore comedies and horror movies and other genre movies. Like why do we care so much about the Oscars? It's clearly a just like a circle jerk of old white dudes. Like why do we even worry whether people get them or not? It's always been weird to me, like people like at the same time acknowledge the problems with the Oscars but also put so much stock into them. To me, like, I think Margot Robbie is fine. You know, I think she gets her dues. People love Margot Robbie. She always puts up great performances, and people acknowledge that she puts up great performances. She continues to get work. I think she's fine. I don't think she's being snubbed. I think the opinions of the audience, which is what matters, and audiences love her, so I think she's good. Last time I was listening to PBS, I felt very inspired to die for the motherland. Yeah. To be fair, I doubt Russian citizens feel that way from Russia. Like they probably understand. And listen, I'm talking about Russian media like I'm like an expert on it. I really am not. It might not even be that bad, but I've heard some things. But I've met Russian people. They're not idiots, you know. They probably understand what's going on in their country. But still. A lot of people want institutional acknowledgement, even knowing the institutions suck, maybe even because of it. Like it's finally proving yourself to someone that stuck their nose up at you. Yeah, I feel that. I think that's a good point. Because it's, you know, I can even think about that on like on a different level. Like, you know, say you get a job or something, or you work at a company. You work for a company that's like known for not hiring black people, for example, and you become like the first black person to get a manager position or something. You probably feel proud about that, even though it's like, well, is it that cool to be the first black person at a racist company? I don't know. You guys can feel free to talk about whatever you want. I will just tell you that there's certain things. Well, it's not even there's certain things. It's just the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm not going to comment on it. There are certain things that I just feel like the internet is not prepared to discuss. And I think that's one of them. And I'm certainly not prepared to discuss them, but it's a free stream. You can talk about whatever you want amongst yourselves. As long as you're civil, obviously. If people start getting weird and rude, then I might have to shut it down. But yeah, I don't know. It's there are certain topics that people, I don't know, I guess people use as their like ultimate purity test, or it's like, if you don't believe this, then you're officially a bad person. or if you don't acknowledge this, and you're officially a bad person. And it's just, whenever those topics come up, it's like I'm probably gonna tap out of this, because that's not the way that I want to talk about anything. NFKRZ was a good channel. Young Russian blogger, started in his teens and grew up in Siberia. Talks about his life in media growing up. Oh, I'm not. I don't think I'm familiar, but that would be interesting. Seems like Russian propaganda is very pernicious and works a lot like Fox News, and a lot of Russians do honestly buy into it. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do, in the same way that a lot of people buy into Fox News. But the thing about Fox News is that it's, you know, it's a privately owned company, and you can kind of expect that from a private company, or not expect it, but in a country that has free speech, free expression, you should expect some private enterprises to do stuff like that, and to try to affect public policy. You should expect that. But when it's the government itself that is funding, if not outright creating this media, that's when it gets a little bit more problematic, I believe. I Speak is a really interesting kind of electronic rock band that made some protest anthems that got shut down by the government. Wasn't that girl band from Russia that got censored as well? Was that Russia, or was that a different country? Yeah, Pussy Riot. Yeah, the methodology is the same. Yeah. But I imagine that there are large segments, if not the majority. I wouldn't know because I'm not there, but I imagine there are large segments of the Russian population that understand that it's propaganda. I'm sure it still affects them. Like, I acknowledge this all the time, is that I live in America, and I know that I'm affected by American propaganda. There's certain ways I think about the world that I think are just very American ways of thinking, and I obviously have to check that and make sure that it's actually like sensible, because I mean, there are certain things about America that I agree with. There are certain American things that I agree with. Like, I'm a big free speech guy. Not that America like invented or is the only country that has free speech, but we're very, very serious about free speech in America, like very serious. And I agree with that. I think that's the way it should be. When you talk to people like from Europe, they're not as hardcore about free speech and free expression. Like, I think they generally agree that people should have free speech, but they get more hesitant when you start to talk about, well, should people be allowed to be hateful? Should people be allowed to be untruthful? Like, in my experience, people from Europe are much more hesitant about that sort of thing. But America, we're like real deep about it. So, you know, there's certain things that I definitely am influenced by from being an American. But at the same time, you need to always be introspective and be like, well, do I feel this way? Is this actually a reasonable position? Is this actually a morally like responsible position? Because there's also a lot of American things that I don't agree with. Like, I always imagine going to certain countries, I would probably be unhappy. Like, I probably would not want to live in Japan, for example, because everyone, and again, this may be generalizations. I could be wrong. I've never been there. But the sense I get from Japan is that they're very like polite and very like passive and like very like maybe don't say what's on their mind a lot of the time. And that's just kind of the culture that's expected over there. And I don't know if I could deal with that. I don't like that. I want people to be loud and say what they think and be upfront and honest, and sometimes, you know, I appreciate people being nice and polite. That's great. But I also think arbitrary customs just out of the sake of politeness is kind of whack. So, you know, there's certain things that are just instilled in me by my culture, I think. And again, I'm sure not everybody in Japan is like that. I hope I don't have to give that disclaimer every time I say something. But yeah, hopefully you understand what I mean. You don't want to live in the glorious Nippon land of anime. I would love to visit Japan. I think it would be a huge culture shock though, but I hope to visit Japan at some point as well. We definitely value free speech over some other morals that we have not codified into our constitution, like unity and loyalty, which is a more Eastern ideal. When you say we, are we still talking about America or are you talking about Europe? Do not eat the burgers from AutoZone. Worst mistake of my life. Do they sell burgers at AutoZone? I've never had a burger from AutoZone. I've never seen a burger at AutoZone. Based on the Yakuza series, all of the rude people in Japan live in 10 square blocks and constantly get into fistfights with the most badass guy ever. Well, that's an interesting thing about Japanese media. I think they as we all do, a lot of Japanese media is like fantasy, like, because, you know, their culture seems very polite, but a lot of their media it features like some very like fucked up people, which is interesting to me. Like some of the most fucked up movies I've ever seen are from Japan. Anti-Japanese racist. I know that's a joke, but like, be surprised at what some people might think. I've never been to Europe. I've barely been out of America, which is probably why I'm so freaking American. And also probably why you should take these generalizations with a grain of salt, because I've never like actually existed within the culture. I'm just kind of going off the internet, people I've met and things I've seen. There's a Japanese film festival in my city. Just watched. A man was surprised that anti-Korean racism was such a prominent theme. Yeah, I don't know a lot about that, but I do know that there is a lot of I don't know if it's straight up racism, but there does seem to be like a lot of feuding between different Asian communities. I don't think they sell burgers at AutoZone. Some dude in the back just sold me one when I ordered. That's funny. I don't know if this is a bit, but that's funny. It kind of tried to show how microaggression affected the protagonist and stuff. Interesting. I really thought Ninja Turtles lived in the sewers as a kid. I probably did too. I loved the Ninja Turtles. That was like one of my first big fandoms as a kid was Ninja Turtles. I was so obsessed. It's honestly the first like media franchise that I remember being obsessed with as a kid. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. Like there was stuff that I liked, but Ninja Turtles just as a franchise, I was like really into. Did I know they had family debt in Japan? I don't know anything about that really. Never felt more American than living abroad was a weird twist. Interesting, but I could see that. There's a YouTuber that I watch, Evan Edinger. You might know of him. He's kind of a YouTube OG. He's been around for a long time. But he is an American who lives in the UK, and he's been living there for like 10 years or something. And a lot of his videos are about what it's like to be an American in the UK and like differences between Americans, even though he's like been there long enough to like fully feel comfortable and be ingrained in the culture. There's just still a lot of like Americanisms. Like people can tell that he's American even before he speaks, just because there's like certain things that Americans do. Like apparently like people who aren't American don't wear baseball caps that much. And it's weird because Americans are kind of known as being ruder than other countries. But I've heard that one of the ways that people in Europe and other non-American countries can tell that someone is American is because they're like overly polite. Like they call people sweetheart, or like they like greet strangers more and stuff like that. So that was interesting. Lived in Germany 5 years myself. They had pretty free speech. Maybe. I mean, I don't think I've ever met like a German person in person, like personally. I mean, I've like, you know, witnessed German people like in media and interviews and stuff. But yeah, I've heard that there, like, I read a story several years ago about someone getting arrested for like doing a Hitler Heil or whatever. Apparently they're not cool about that. And that's an example of an American, well, I don't know if that's an American thing. Maybe a lot of German people disagree with that, but I fully believe that you shouldn't get arrested for something like that. Like, obviously you shouldn't be an asshole just on a personal level, but you shouldn't be arrested just for being an asshole. Based on the movie, it was like anti-Mexican sentiment in the USA, like, oh, I love Korean soap operas, and I know you aren't like lazy Koreans using our welfare, you like a real Japanese. Yeah, I could see that. That's interesting. I might have to check that out. It's unfortunate that this kind of, you know, bigotry kind of exists all over the world. Like, Americans do get a bad rap for being, you know, very, I think it's because it's so overt here because it's such a racially diverse country. So people are just like kind of very open with their bigotry, but that kind of stuff exists everywhere. In Japan, if your close relation gets into debt, they will go after you for it. Oh, I see. Like while you're still alive? That sucks. Hi, sweetheart can be very polite or horrifyingly threatening, depending on if it's said in a loud Brooklyn accent. Yeah, in general, I don't think, probably shouldn't be calling people sweetheart. It's just like, it's creepy. But it is, I know a lot of people do it. See, where I was, Americans were too polite, and that was something I fit into too. It also made me realize how hierarchical American society is in comparison, despite claiming a lot of individualism. Yeah, I feel like I probably would be overly polite, but that would be mainly because I just felt out of place. I would just be like, I don't want to piss anyone off in their own country. I don't want to be that obnoxious American that they always talk about. I'm just going to be very kind and polite to everyone. But that makes you stand out even more, because that's not how normal people are. They're just, they're just reacting. Or they're just like living normally, so they don't normally expect people to come up. Oh, another one that they say that only Americans do is when you go to a restaurant and you ask the server or waiter what they recommend on the menu. Apparently only Americans do that. I thought that was funny, because I don't really do that myself, but I have seen people do that all the time, and it seems very normal to me. But apparently that's something only Americans do. Took a break from editing to say hi. Oh, what's up? I didn't recognize you at first. Well, hope it's going well. In the case of Germans and Nazis, I think people, can I get demonetized for saying Nazis? I don't know. I think people forget, this video is not monetized anyway. I think people forget that there were a real political party that violently took power and installed a dictatorship, so salute is more terror affiliation. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, I understand why they might make it illegal to do that, but I still would qualify it as a violation of free expression. But I understand their point, and I'm not gonna like protest Germany for arresting somebody over that, First Japan, now Germany. We need to talk some crap on Italy. Get all the Axis powers. Italy is a country that I don't know anything about. Not that I know much about any other country, but definitely not Italy. I don't know what's going on over there. It seems like it would be a cool place to live, though. It's like, I think it has one of the... Well, I think Europe in general just has a lot of like really pretty places, but Italy, from what I understand, has better weather than a lot of the other countries, which is very important to me. Like, if I ever get to the point where I can choose where to retire, the weather is going to be very important to me. And the weather seems pretty bad in places like Germany and the UK, but places like Italy and Greece, they have better weather. I mean, openly affiliating with certain organizations can be illegal here too, right? Like what? In America? I don't think so. What's an example? I mean, I think it can definitely get you put on a watch list, but I don't think you could like directly get arrested just for like, because like there are people, I feel like there were people who were sympathetic to like Al-Qaeda and shit in America, and it probably got put on a watch list and probably maybe got them like interrogated, but I don't think you can be arrested unless you actually do a crime. Are there such a thing as YouTuber tours? And if so, would you ever do one? YouTuber tours, what do you mean by that? Like a tour of where I live, or a YouTube video about me taking a tour of something? The public transportation is definitely something about Europe that I am very jealous of, because it is rare in America. Certain cities have decent public transportation, but not most of them. YouTubers going on tour like Comic-Cons. Well, there's definitely videos of people going to conventions and things of that nature. And I mean, I would love to do something like that. I haven't been able to get to anything like that recently. Plus, I'm a little bit older, so I don't like get out and do a lot of stuff these days, but I want to do more stuff like that. So I mean, I guess the age, I shouldn't say the age thing, because there are definitely people who are my age and older that do stuff like that, but you kind of get into a point after a certain age where you just kind of get into your routine, and then you just don't like, you know, going, you have to like plan a vacation, and you like do it once a year, and then but the rest of the year you just kind of do your routine. But I don't, it's not like I feel old or anything. Like, I could definitely do more stuff if I really put my mind to it and like had the money for it. But so I don't know, that could be something that could happen, because I actually need to do more stuff. I kind of got into a kind of a repetitive routine that I need to break out of. In fact, I saw my brother today, and right after I saw him, I realized that he was the first human being I'd seen in person in like 2.5 weeks. I've literally been in my apartment. I hadn't left my apartment in 2.5 weeks. And I was like, that just doesn't seem good. I should interact with humans more. So I need to do more stuff. I will be doing some stuff like usually, and to be fair, the only reason that happened is because we skipped my D&D game. I usually have a D&D game every weekend, so I see my friends every weekend, but we skipped it last weekend, so I'm like missed it. But I still need to like I used to be a very social person. I consider myself an extrovert. I like interacting with people, but I kind of stopped being social, partially because I stopped drinking alcohol, and a lot of my social activities revolved around alcohol. But I need to do more stuff. So I want to like plan more trips and stuff. I'm in about a month. I'm gonna be like going to we're like staying at a lake house for the weekend with a bunch of friends, so I'll be doing that. But I want to do more stuff. You don't buy food or stuff? The way that I buy food is I try to stock up for the month. But I do need to go back to the grocery store, because I'm kind of running out of stuff. I know like a lot of people like go to the grocery store like every week or every other week, but I don't like doing that. And for that reason, I try not to buy a lot of perishable food. So I just try to buy food that will last me like at least a month. And I work from home, so I don't have to leave for that. I have a car, but I barely drive anywhere because I don't have to. Yeah, I rarely buy fresh produce. Like I like grapes. So when I go to the grocery store, I'll buy a couple bags of grapes and it'll be gone, you know, like the first week and a half. Outside of that, I buy like frozen stuff, and I buy meat and like bread and stuff. I probably don't have the most balanced diet, but I take vitamins, which kind of satisfies me. It's like, well, I'm getting nutrients because I take vitamins, so I don't have to eat that many vegetables. I don't know if that's like scientifically accurate, but I'm going with it for now. If fresh food lasted longer, I would buy it, but I hate that it goes bad in like 3 days. It's just very inconvenient for me. In Germany, you could buy a yearly pass for public transport. It would be good on all forms. Buses, tram, trains, trolley through the entire country for like 1,200 euro. That is, I mean, that's good, but that does seem like a lot of money. I mean, I guess if it just covers literally all public transport. It looks like there are gang affiliation laws, but it doesn't look like they make just membership illegal, but are laws that expand the number of people that could be charged with the crime. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know that. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I like about America, is that we're very serious about free expression for the most part. But, you know, Trump said that he thinks that the police and the army should shoot the Black Lives Matter protesters. So if he becomes the dictator that he wants to be, then maybe America will lose some of that free expression. Had to dip out for a bit because my roommate bought some falafel pitas and some apple cake. I had to make caramel for. Grapes freeze nicely. Have you thought about something like HelloFresh or the pre-made meals? Yeah, I have tried a lot of the pre-made meals, and I generally like them. They're just expensive, but I'm okay with that. I did HelloFresh for maybe about a year. I've tried a bunch of them. I've tried HelloFresh. I've tried Factor. And some of the ones that are less popular, I've tried Clean Eats, Dinnerly, maybe another one. And they're fine. I think they're good. The problem is that they're expensive. And sometimes if I want to save money, then I don't do it. But eventually, I think that would probably be my solution to make sure that I do get balanced meals, is to just do one of those. But right now I'm not doing them because I don't want to spend the money. And also for those things, I've learned that you get what you pay for. So there are cheaper ones, but you get much lower quality ingredients and much lower quality recipes. So, if you're okay with that, then that's cool. But it's like to the point where I can literally make better stuff myself for cheaper. Will vaping have side effects? Like vaping nicotine? Probably. It's pretty darn easy to freeze fruit and veggies. Well, you can buy frozen veggies, which I do sometimes. I like frozen broccoli a lot. But in my experience, almost any fruit or veggie that you freeze and then unthaw will come out very mushy and gross. So that hasn't really been something that I've, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. €340 a month. I don't think I would pay €340 a month for public transportation. Thoughts on Aphex Twin? I know they have that one song that I like. I don't know that much about it. Republicans can't speak. They recently had a running politician who's a KKK member. Oh yeah, there was a senator who was like pretty much a white nationalist, like an open white nationalist. I forgot his name. I'm on my second week of HelloFresh. Yeah, I support HelloFresh. I think it's good. I think the recipes are good. I think they all get a little bit repetitive, but if you don't mind that, then yeah, it's good. Very convenient. Also, you generate a lot of trash, which kind of sucks. But if you're okay with those things, and Factor is surprisingly good too, because Factor gives you pre-cooked meals that you just have to warm up, but they're still quite good. Like they're way better than you might imagine for something that you can warm up in the microwave. We're vegetarian here, so yeah, you have to make sure you go through produce before it dies. Yeah, which means you have to go to the grocery store every week at least, which I don't want to do. That's too much. Freeze-dried strawberries are dope. Grapes you eat frozen, it's a different experience, but delicious. Yeah, I don't know. I've tried frozen grapes. I've heard a lot of people talk about frozen grapes. I don't think I prefer it to just regular refrigerated grapes. I do love grapes though. I do always buy grapes. You just have to eat them before they go bad. Oh, you didn't like Factor? Oh, fair enough, to each his own. I liked it. I'm not super picky about food, I guess, though. There's only one food that I refuse to eat. Well, yeah, I would say like there's only one food that I've refused to eat, and that's olives. I'll eat pretty much anything else, though. But if you are willing to cook, then HelloFresh is very convenient. But you have to be willing to cook. Some people use HelloFresh to help them develop the habit of cooking, which probably works for some people. But I think what happens a lot of times is you just don't feel like cooking, and you just end up with all these ingredients lying around and stuff going bad. I think Biden will win election but die in office, so get ready for President Kamala Harris. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I believe Kamala Harris is less liberal or to the right of Joe Biden, right? So we'll see how that goes. That would be a big deal to have the first black woman president, though. One of the advantages of living in Africa is you can have homegrown fruits and veggies. Yeah, I would say if I had a house, I live in an apartment, but if I had a house, I would probably look into gardening and growing vegetables. And that would definitely encourage me to eat fresh vegetables more. I do like cooking though, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed HelloFresh. And I kind of made a point a few years ago to cook more and to learn how to cook a little bit. And back then I was living with my brother, so they were kind of like my guinea pigs, and I'd like tested out recipes and like cooking techniques on them. And I will say, sometimes when you want to cook something, it kind of sucks when you don't have any fresh vegetables around, because that's kind of how you make like dishes good, is by adding vegetables and stuff. It's just kind of weird if you just have like rice and meat or something. Like, it's like, can you put some onions or some tomatoes or something in there? So I do understand it from that aspect. So if there's a specific thing that I want to make, then I'll go buy some vegetables. But I haven't done that in the past like month or so. Like even if it's like, I wanted to make some tacos the other day, and it's like, yeah, you can make some tacos. You can just you can put some ground beef in a taco shell and that's it. But you know, I wanted to make some salsa and I wanted some cilantro, so I went and bought it. But I didn't use all the cilantro, and then it just went bad because I don't have any use for it. That's why I don't like buying produce. This stuff just goes bad. Could look into community gardens if you live in an urban area. Yeah, but that still requires me to go and get it. That's the problem. If it's already at my house, then that's cool. Because at that point, then I might as well just go to the grocery store, right? Well, I mean, not that I might as well go, but it's like the same thing. Growing tomatoes in particular, if you can, is that 1,000,000? Whatever. Percent worth the effort. I was trying to see if I could recognize the number, but my brain fused all the zeros together. But yeah. I have a friend who grows their own vegetables. It seems very cool. I don't know how hard it is to do though. A lot of people make gardening seem like it's very hard to do. I used to grow green onions because that's really easy to do. You just need water. And you basically have like infinite spring onions, green onions, scallions, whatever you want to call them. It's pretty cool how they just keep growing back. It's wild. And you can do that like inside your apartment, which is cool. You're not living with any of my brothers anymore? Nope, I live by myself now. They live pretty close by though, so if I invite them over to come eat something, they'll probably come. But yeah, I live alone. Dry the herbs up and save them. I guess I will say that never occurred to me. I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure I could look up the best way to do that. I guess you just put them in, can you put them in the oven or something? NFB, thank you for the $4.99 for something fresh. Okay. I'll make sure to spend that $4.99 on some fresh tomatoes or something. You would also get that social experience you talked about wanting. That's true, yeah. A community garden would definitely be a lot more pleasant than going to the grocery store. I find going to the grocery store pretty like stressful. It's just like, I don't know, like nobody's happy at the grocery store, it seems. Everyone's just there to get the business done. It may just depend on where you go though. Like definitely going into like Aldi or Trader Joe's is a much different experience than going into Walmart. I feel like going into Walmart is like going into a different dimension. It feels so weird inside Walmart. Nobody expects you to bring booze to a gardening sesh. Gardening should start small because it takes some maintaining. Yeah. Oh, were you talking about the movie earlier, about the languages spoken in the Black Panther movie? I thought you were talking about the game we were talking about before. What season is it in the US? Well, technically it's about to be the beginning of spring, but that really depends on where you live. It's kind of moderate weather where I live in Alabama right now. I imagine it's probably still pretty cold in the northern states. We did have like it got pretty cold. It's like last night, and I think it's gonna get pretty cold tonight, but like it was like 60 degrees Fahrenheit earlier today, and we actually even had an 80-degree weather day a few days ago, which is a bit weird, which makes me think we might have a tornado soon, because usually if there's a large weather fluctuations that causes, you know, the pressure to change and the winds to do weird stuff and like cause tornadoes and stuff, which is one of the things that we have to deal with down here in the southern United States, is tornadoes. But yeah, but it should be the beginning of spring coming soon, and we're gonna have warmer weather starting pretty soon. Are there farmers markets near you? Yeah, there's one. I believe there's one downtown. But yeah, I can find a farmers market for sure. Oh, Black Panther isn't in Midnight Suns. Okay. How they botch. I don't even know how to say that. Interesting. That I don't think I've ever heard it from an African perspective, because mostly I think people praise that movie because of how it referenced like real African cultures. But I never really thought about how someone who actually exists in those cultures would react to that. Oh, they have tornadoes up in Minneapolis? I didn't know that. Yeah, we barely had a winter. We almost really didn't have a winter. I think we had like 1 or 2 days where it was like freezing temperatures. Like I don't know, man. Climate change is real. I don't know how anyone can deny that. I live in Alabama. What time is it? It is 10:45 p.m. I live in the Central Time Zone. Yeah, I guess tornadoes probably happen a lot of areas in like the eastern side of the United States. I didn't know it happened as far as Minneapolis though. That's interesting. Everything's close to accurate in the movie. The only problem is how they speak the language. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. I'm glad everything is mostly accurate. Do you live in a walkable neighborhood? Absolutely not. Alabama is very hilly. There's a lot of peaks and valleys, and also the city is not built for pedestrians. There's, at least not where I live. There are certain parts of the city, like if you go downtown, there's a lot of sidewalks and bike lanes and things of that nature, trails and stuff, but not where I live. There are like barely any sidewalks. It's like certain towns are trying to become more walkable, but it's definitely not a citywide thing. You know, I honestly wasn't even sure that they were speaking a real language in Black Panther. I thought it may have been like a amalgam of different African languages. Everyone's talking about the pollen and insects that are getting a much earlier start here. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know if the insects have really started coming out here, which is interesting, but they do come out in full force during the summer. They have tornadoes in Canada as well. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna stream for maybe about 10 more minutes, and then we're gonna shut it down because it is getting late. This is a nighttime stream, but it's gonna be getting close to midnight after a while. But I did want to it's been a minute since I streamed. I wanted to come and say what's up and chill for a sec. Am I ready for summer? I'm not I guess I prefer summer to winter, but here in Alabama and I guess the South in general, it gets real hot during the summer. And I imagine as the fucking earth gets warmer, it's just gonna get worse and worse. But I don't really go outside that much, so I don't have to deal with the worst of it. But Yeah, it gets pretty miserable sometimes. Like high 90s, sometimes 100 plus degrees Fahrenheit just in the dead heat of summer, and I'm not a fan of that. But I do prefer warm weather. I love a good 80-degree day, 80-degree summer day where you can just go outside with a t-shirt and just feel nice. Or, you know, I'm not a huge outdoorsy guy, but I do like weather where you can just like chill outside, or you can do something like go to the beach or something. I like that kind of weather. I also have seasonal allergies, which sucks. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but that is about to kick in as well, and where I live, there's just a bunch of trees just all over the place, and pretty much every time I go outside, my car is like covered in pollen, and it's kind of miserable for me. But you know, it could be worse. But if I had to choose between very cold weather and very hot weather, I think I have to choose the hot weather. Just freezing, like below freezing, like 0 degrees, that type of shit. That's just, whew, that is not the way to be. I'm not a fan. I mean, I like moderate temperatures. I like fall weather. I sometimes like it when it's a little cool. Like if you can put a jacket on and be comfortable, that's fine. But I just don't like the extremes. If you can wear a t-shirt and be fine, if you can wear a t-shirt and shorts and be comfortable, that's fine. But if you're wearing a t-shirt and shorts and you're still uncomfortable because it's so hot, that's obnoxious. At the same time, if you cover yourself with like 8 layers and you're still freezing, that's too much. And unfortunately, at least historically, Alabama will get both extremes. It'll get very cold and it'll get very hot. But like I said, our winters are becoming shorter and shorter. And like I said, our cold weather season lasted like a week this year, or this past year. So I don't even know if that's something we'll have to worry about anymore. But I remember, like, when we were a kid, I think anyone who's of a certain age might remember, or anyone that lives on like the eastern United States might remember the huge blizzard in, I think it was in 1993. It like affected the entire eastern United States, and it was like this huge blizzard that, you know, it was like a huge, most people, you know, over a certain age like remember it fondly. And it was kind of fun because, you know, snow is cool. Even though it's cold, like freezing outside, snow is tight. Like it's pretty and you can play in it. So I feel that. But the temperature. Not fondly, yeah. I mean, it caused a lot of trouble for sure. We get too many 90 plus days in Minneapolis, even 100. That's interesting. I guess I didn't know anything about Minneapolis and just like in Minnesota in general. I just imagine it just being this, you know, Canada-like cold, snowy place all the time, but I guess not. Northern South Africa never snowed. I'm 23 and I don't know how it feels. That's interesting. Yeah. Never seen snow. Well, it's cool. And I don't mean that, pun not intended, but I think it's a cool thing to experience if you've never experienced it before. And it can be fun, like sledding, and, you know, snow angels and building snowmen and things like that. Like, that's fun. I acknowledge that that's fun. But then you remember just how freezing cold it has to be for snow to get that thick, and it's like, man, I don't want that. You can keep it. I remember Snowmageddon of 2010. I think I remember that. I do remember there was a, I don't know if it was 2010. Actually, it might have been 2010. This was back when I used to play Smash Brothers competitively, and we used to travel to different tournaments and stuff. Just me and like a group of other players. And we were coming back, I think from Tennessee, and we just got stuck in this huge snowstorm, and we had to like rest at this random gas station overnight because we literally could not drive because it was too much snow. And I think that was 2010. Won't snow melting cause flood? It doesn't, but I've never thought about that. I think if once the temperature gets so hot that it melts and quickly evaporates, so you don't really get the liquid state for very long. But sometimes snow can melt and it just becomes icy water, and that can be just as dangerous. Like, that's what happens here a lot. Like, we don't get full snow. We just get like ice on the ground, like half melted ice, which is like very dangerous for like driving conditions and stuff. But yeah, you would think that a bunch of snow would just melt into water, but it doesn't really do that. I don't know the exact scientific definition, or explanation is the word, not definition. But yeah, we got a major dump that year, and going to work that day, the only people who made in besides me were my manager and two others of a 23-person team. They let us go at 11, but it took 2 hours to get home. Yeah, I remember that. A lot of people were pissed because they still had to go to work, and people were like calling to see if they had to go to work, and they're like, yeah, you need to still come in. It's like, what do you mean? Yeah, some people had to just abandon their cars for like 3 days because they couldn't move them. Yeah, that I remember that, and it's crazy that affected. I guess that also affected like the entire eastern United States. I'm not sure about the western area. It must be nice to live in like Southern California where the weather's always great. There's probably statistically there's probably some people here from California. I looked at my statistics, and there is way more people from California that watch my videos than any other state in America. They say there's supposed to be a wobble happening now that it dips up and down, which is what's causing the tornado alley to move more to the east. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff happening with the weather fluctuations. I'm not super an expert on that. The coldest experience we get is fog. It's too frequent. We have some foggy days here as well. All right, everyone. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. It's about to be 11 p.m. But yeah, thanks. It's been a cool conversation. I always forget how fun it is to do these streams. I don't do them as often as I like to, because it kind of seems like it's going to be a chore, but it never is. It's always fun, and I always have very lively and cool conversations. So thanks for that. I do want to plug my Discord. If you do like chill, friendly conversations like this, I made a whole Discord for that where we can do it whenever you want. I will see if my Discord link still works. There we go. So there's the link to the Discord in the chat if you would like to check it out. It's just people in the community chilling. You can talk about different topics. They've got different channels: politics, sports, writing, and even some more niche things that I'm particularly interested in, like fighting games and pro wrestling and things like that. So that's another way that you can come and chill if you just want some chill people to talk to. And like it says in the title, I do have a new video coming soon. Check out for that probably next week. Just be on the lookout for that. And I'll try to stream more often. I always say that, and sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for a good stream, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.